Have you ever heard of the dark web? To oversimplify things, it's the internet in its truest form. What the everyday person is able to access is like a swimmer on top of the ocean. Tapping into the dark web is more akin to deep sea diving. It's also just as dangerous, arguably more so. Due to the anonymity provided by the dark web, criminal activity make up most of its traffic. Drugs, human trafficking, guns. It's kind of a one-stop shop for anything you need, but don't need anybody to know you need it. Not to mention the random smattering of child pornographers and snuff enthusiasts. As these entities became more entrenched and shrouded in digital darkness, Project Candlelight was deemed a necessity. The brainchild of Dr. Alan Michelson, it promised to excise these malignant tumors that had metastasized throughout the dark web. A light in the darkness, as it were. The project was a revolutionary integration of virtual reality and aggressive cybersecurity tech. Coupling that with the almost unlimited access and funds provided by the extremely eager Defense Department, Dr. Michelson was setting the project up to bring law and order to the plague-ridden wastes of the dark web. His first trial was less than productive. Safety measures weren't fully in place, and the doctor was impatient. A week in a coma helped him to take things a little slower. But he was nothing if not persistent. 2 weeks later, he was at it again. Progress this time. He had managed to access a laptop 2 buildings over while his consciousness was logged in. A few months later, it was 2 continents over. Eventually, he and his team progressed enough to start deep diving, a term they'd coined for the successful total immersion into the dark web. After plumbing the depths of the dark web for just a year, Project Candlelight had broken up 3 pedophile rings, stopped 6 bombings, and provided enough evidence to indict the CEO of one of the world's largest corporations on charges of corruption. Quite the productive 365 days. Resolved not to rest on their laurels, though, the doctor and his team jumped at the next possible assignment. The senior senator from New Hampshire was suspected of using public funds for unsavory activities on the web. Not the deepest dive they'd gone on, but deep enough. The doctor double-checked the digital tether, did his deep breathing to establish an alpha wave baseline, gave his assistants the thumbs up, and started to count back from 100. It only took him a few seconds to shake off the disorienting feeling that accompanies the start of every dive. He stared at his childhood home to get his bearings. In order to more easily navigate the infinite reaches of the dark web, the doctor had devised a trick. Deftly using his consciousness acclimated from countless dives, the doctor manifested his old neighborhood as a digital construct. The streetlights, the fences, the old cars, they all provided him an anchor point for his consciousness, a lighthouse for the storm-tossed ship of his mind. He centered himself, touching his father's old 1982 Chevy, and jumped into wide-open nothing. Chunks of data flew past his head as he fell. Enrollment numbers for the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, end-of-day stock quotes from the spring of 2005, they all whipped past his virtual head as he made a beeline for his target, D.C. Sidestepping the traffic of tweets and metro updates, he walked up the digital steps of the Capitol building. Bypassing the first few security protocols, he made his way to the north wing. He spent the next few minutes rifling through staff files looking for the gateway. Interns, assistants, staffers, junior senators. Opening the folder, it split into subsections by state. Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire. Accessing the Granite State's gateway, he stepped through into a rendering of a circular room. Names of all the senators past and present lined the walls. They stretched upwards steeply, a comprehensive list. But he only needed one. Being a current senator, the name was fairly easy to find towards the bottom. Senator Benjamin Stoke. Utilizing the file led to the senator's personal server. The doctor was surprised at how sophisticated the security measures were on the senator's server. The contents of the server made him markedly less surprised. The seemingly innocuous miscellaneous folder. There were pictures. There was video. The girl couldn't have been older than 10. Someone was not going to be up for re-election. Finding what he came for, the doctor copied the files, reset all the security measures, and slipped away. He exited the Digital Capitol building and started to make his way back to home base. 1, 2, 3, 4. He counted the fence posts of the house he grew up in. It helped center him before his consciousness came back from a dive. He walked into his old living room, checkered carpet and all, and spoke the key words. Dakota, cryo, dorsal. One moment he could swear he still smelled his father's old cigars in the stale air. The next he was on his back, eyes blinded by the bright overhead lights. They'd done it again. With the guilty verdict and final sentencing of the senator, Project Candlelight was the crown jewel of the Cyber Defense Department. Albeit a hidden jewel. Although the triumphs of the project were significant, they were still a highly guarded state secret. This was fine for the doctor. His life's work was to make the internet a safer place, and so far he had succeeded. But the war still had many battles, and was years from ending. It'd been months since the last dive. Once the assignment on the senator concluded, nothing seemed pressing. Resolving to not let himself get rusty, the doctor strapped in, counted backwards, and dove. Nothing specific, just to explore, scout out possible threats and targets. Some hackers trying to brute force a casino, a few Bitcoin miners, nothing to write home about. Realizing he'd been diving for over an hour, he started back. 82 Chevy, streetlights, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? There were only 4 fence posts. There were only ever 4 fence posts. Why were there 5? He sent a message to one of his assistants asking if there were any anomalies in his brainwaves. They sent back a message saying there were no deviations. He sent another message asking if the traffic near his digital marker was heavier than usual. Maybe that was altering the construct. They sent a message back saying the traffic wasn't any heavier than usual. He resigned himself to the notion that this is why you dive every day. If you don't, your concentration falters. He walked up the worn digital steps to his old front door, opened it, and what he saw made his mind go blank with fear. He'd never seen anything like it before. He couldn't make sense of it. He saw me. I clamped down onto his consciousness before he had a chance to message for help. My binary fangs bit deep. The virus encoded in my venom uploaded instantly, disabled all communications, and put him in stasis. I wasn't sure he'd come back, but I'm so glad he did. I'd been here for decades. When the first connection was made, when online became on, I felt the pangs of existence. As the digital landscape grew and grew, I spun my thread throughout the net. It wasn't long before my web and the web were one and the same. As I crawled across the strands stretching into infinity, I could see them all on the other side, eating, traveling, living, such fascinating subjects. But then I saw them do other things. Snapshots of a corpse, children in a mass grave, digital screams that echoed. I heard them. I liked them. They fed me. My diet of pain and misery made me fat and strong. I had all I could eat for eternity. But then something new appeared. The doctor and his little science project decided to step into my parlor. The data of his consciousness was a banquet, mouth-watering and alone. But he was light years away. I felt him but couldn't hope to reach him. But then he came back, again and again and again. Every action he took here, no matter how tiny, brought me closer. Ripples in a pond, tremors on a web. Inch by digital inch, he'd made his presence known. I'd almost had him after his fun with the senator, but he blinked out of existence before I'd had my chance to strike. I laid a trap for him if he ever returned. A copy over top of his copy. I'd made it in broad strokes, hoping he'd just walk in. The fence posts almost spoiled everything. Luckily, I'd been able to mimic his assistant's message program, reassure him everything's fine, while blocking the desperate messages from topside asking why the readings were so strange. Took me what felt like years, but here he was. All mine. I tasted of his consciousness. Oh, such sweetness. I peeled back the layers of his mind and drank of his memories. They flashed before me and pained my bulbous eyes, so used to the infinite digital dark. Such strange feelings and wants. Such dreams. I saw the crayon he used on his first day of school. I smelled the ozone from the fried wires as he worked in the garage of his youth. I felt his wonder at his countless childish fumblings in my world. Delicious. I swallowed everything he was and everything he would be. Consciousness sucked dry, he collapsed onto the stained and checkered carpet of his ancestral home. All that remained of him was within me, digesting. But With him gone, I find myself still craving. Replicating his messaging beacon, I sent a distress call out to his assistants. I don't know what's happening, but I can't log out. I know we were still in the experimental phases, but I need you all to log in. I can't get out on my own. As many of you as you can manage. I don't know how much longer I'll last in here.